people don't want when they moved out. It's kind of crazy.
Wow. So I know that Stacy's not going to be here today, right? She had informed us that she's out today.
Well, it looks like we have everybody else.
Well, there's Stacy.
I think Stacy was saying the November meeting.
Oh, the November.
Yeah, I'll be in Tampa for our National Leadership Conference.
But I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry. I was telling everyone you weren't going to be here today.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, since we have everybody here, I think we can start, except I want to find my cursor first. By the way, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Or am I on
Yes.
mute?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Because I can't find the mute. I can't find the cursor to do the mute. That's and we have, well, to my watch, 30 seconds, which means we probably are already there. When I saw everybody's faces already up on Teams, I said to myself, was this 9 o'clock instead of 10? Okay. Anyway, I guess if we can call ourselves to order now at 10 o'clock. And first item would be approval of the minutes from the previous meetings. Do we have any recommended changes?
John, I had one comment on just the way one of the descriptions is worded. James Russell, which comes back today. So who can, if I have some proposed wording, if someone one of the people can make a note of this. It says board member McDonald made a motion to ask for, and I just think the rest of that sentence is unclear. So my suggested change is made a motion to ask for clarification as to how the condition impacted his ability to complete CPE prior to June 30, 2023. I don't know who takes those changes.
Well,
I'm noting them now. Thank you.
Okay, and I have, compared to yours, mine is very unsubstantive. Right below it on Maciej Statura, there's an extra "the" in there. So board member Farber made a motion to approve waiving the fee.
Regarding
the
the
waiving of the fee.
Regarding the wording of the motion, we can go back to the recording. We just have to make sure we get it as exactly as was stated.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure where we go there from there then.
Well, I mean, I guess it's not that substantive. I thought it was clear the way I worded it as to what we were really asking for is clarification of what was impacting him passing the CPE. I don't recall how we said it in the meeting. If we said it that way in the meeting, then that's fine.
Okay. Agreed. Okay, any other comments, corrections? Very well. Can we have a motion to, I'm not sure whether you have a motion to accept consistent with checking make sure that language is correct, or we should put it off till next time. If our attorney can weigh in on that, Kat.
Actually, John, regarding minutes, technically, you don't even need to have a vote according to the rules. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having votes, but there's technically no requirements for votes. Well,
let me think about because we have for the last 8 years, I know we've actually voted to accept or not.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
minute.
most boards do, but in us
Yeah.
reviewing the rules, it turns out that's not a requirement.
Okay, why don't we just let this one sit? And if anybody has any strong feelings, just email me between now and November. And by the way, I might, since we're virtual anyway, it doesn't make any difference, but I will have to be doing it from the wee hours in California, so I know the November meeting. Okay, moving on to legal division. Case number M 2023-1.
Good morning. So this case has concluded, but I just wanted to let the board know about it. So I put it on the agenda. So this was a case against Daniele and Associate. It's a CPA firm located in Newington. It's owned and operated by two CPAs. We received two consumer complaints. One case, the firm made an error on the tax returns, resulting in IRS fees and penalties. And in the other case, a firm also made a significant error on the consumer's tax returns and also allowed an unrelated third person to forge the consumer's signature on the engagement letter, the tax returns, and the e-file authorization form. And the firm also gave this unrelated third person a copy of the consumer's tax returns without her knowledge or consent. Anyway, there were also licensing violations. The firm permit lapsed for a little while. They also had CPE deficiencies. So we brought this case before a hearing officer instead of a board because we wanted to obtain restitution for the consumers. So as you know, the board does not have the power to award restitution. So that's why we wanted to pursue this before a hearing officer. So at the end of July, the hearing officer issued a consent order, which was approved by the commissioner. And this consent order required the respondents to pay full restitution to the consumers. It came to $475 in one case and $6,187 in the other case. And it also required the firm to pay settlement fees, completed additional CPEs, and develop a plan to implement procedures and practices and security controls and standards to protect and safeguard the firm's clients' tax returns. So if any of you wish to see the consent order, I will be happy to send you a copy. Thank you.
Would anybody like to see that consent order? Carla, I believe this is the first time that both of us have been on this board that we've heard of anybody allowing inappropriate signatures like that on returns.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. It's sort of shocking, really.
Yes.
But maybe I'm
is.
easily shocked. I don't know.
Okay. Old business, we have none. New business, Tim, would you like to tell us anything that you felt was particularly of importance from the Eastern Regional meeting to share with the board?
Yeah, sure thing, John. This is 3 months ago, so I went back to my notes and the slides, but I'll pick up a few things that I thought I'd share, and some of it is already developed based on recent emails and decisions by NASBA. So the meeting, Eastern Regional, was held. It's a 2-day meeting held in Savannah in early June. Really good participation. Just under. Actually, between Eastern and the Western regional meetings, there are about 350 people that attended, which is pretty impressive, in this post-COVID world when a lot of people do things by Zoom, as we do. So the meeting was kicked off, by Ken Bishop and Rick Reisig, the chair of NASBA. Both focused on two things. One is CPA evolution, in reference to the changes that are being made to the exam starting next year, and then the CPA pipeline issues that really the two most important things that NASBA and the board have been focused on. Throughout the 2 days, there were a number of presentations on a number of topics, legal update, legislative update, reports from the committees of NASBA. A few of those that I thought I'd point out. One was a presentation by Dan Dustin on the status of that the Experience, Learn, and Earn pilot program that's being developed by NASBA and the AICPA to help address the financial challenges students are facing in obtaining the 150 credit hours for CPA licensure. And so since that time, I know we all received the email discussing the official launch that's being done in conjunction with the Tulane School of Professional Advancement. They have a goal of adding more universities in the near term to give candidates more options. But, this is something that I think was a lot of the firms are expressing interest in, and, they think it can be helpful to address, the challenges with the pipeline. There was also a presentation that provided a helpful overview to me of the peer review process and the responsibilities of state boards. It's really more of a refresher, but they also pointed out, in case you're interested, all that information is available on the NASBA website. So to the extent you want to check that out for yourselves, you can do that. There was the update from the Uniform Accountancy Act Committee, and they talked about the most recent changes to the UAA model rule that deals with extending the conditional credit window from 18 to 30 months, as well as using the date when the exam score is released to calculate the credit window, which I know we've already taken up. They did share, as of the date of the regional meetings in June, 18 states had, in fact, voted to go to 30 months, while the rest had not yet taken it up, but they generally expected most would be doing so. An update from the NASBA CPA Pipeline Task Force was also shared. They have developed a CPA pipeline toolkit, which kind of lays out ideas and potential ways that, our state boards might be able with pipeline development. I guess some of the state boards are actually having and hosting in-person meetings at universities. They thought that's been well received. Just do more reach out in developing relationships with the educators, and then just really expanding the pipeline communications with students is something that they, again, some of the other state boards are doing. Might be some things that we start to think about in Connecticut if we think appropriate. Also, as part of pipeline challenges, they discussed, potentially recommending, at least at this point in time, that the boards adopt the one-time credit relief initiative. That's like that amnesty program that talked about for exam credits, which expired, during COVID between, I think, January 30, 2020 and May 11, 2023. In the past week or so, NASBA did release an email, which Kat shared with us, that in fact proposes the boards adopt the initiative. And I see that's also on our agenda
That's on the agenda
today. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear more about that. And last thing, just as part of the legislative update, the one highlight where there's been a lot of focus has been the state of Minnesota. You may be aware that they proposed legislation that would add additional paths of CPA licensure, which would, in addition to keeping the current path, which is 150 credits, pass the exam, 1 year of work experience, they would add 2 additional pathways. One is 120 credits, pass the exam, 2 years of work experience, or 120 credits, pass the exam, 1 year work experience, plus 120 hours of CPE. There's still a lot of questions on how this would be implemented if it's passed, and NASBA, kind of is really focused on, the challenges that this would present for Minnesota CPAs and firms, because their ability to practice in another state jurisdiction under mobility would be challenged, and they probably would have to meet substantial equivalency, on their own with each state in which they want to practice. So as you might expect, NASBA is not super supportive of, unilateral changes by one state, and is really committed to working with everyone. So, everyone addresses any concerns more broadly as part of the UAA, and ensuring the benefits of mobility are are maintained. But that's something, they're very much monitoring and working with Minnesota to help address what they see as their concerns and interests, and again, trying to keep some uniformity within the act to preserve mobility. And I think that's pretty much everything I thought I highlight to to the committee. I would say this is I don't know if it's my second or third meeting that I've attended. I've enjoyed them all. I mean, it gives you a great opportunity to meet with other people from state societies and other state boards and chat about what's going on within their states. I know, John, you've attended in the past,
Right.
and others have as well. So they're very open. I think they've said we'll extend you one scholarship, because we don't have any money for this stuff. I think they would, if there were more people that did want to attend, I think they'd be open to granting additional scholarships if in case it works in your calendars and you can make it in the future. I'd highly recommend it.
Yes, and I'll add to that, but first I'll grant you the Mark Aronowitz Memorial Award for excellent notes.
That was Mark's job.
But we do have this year's annual meeting, as you're probably aware, is in New York, which at least eliminates the whole airfare scholarship issue, and they have in the past awarded 2 scholarships for attendees. I hate to think of us basically being subsidized by West Virginia and Mississippi. There's something wrong with that, but there is the likelihood is that I would have to be virtual, because I think that's going to overlap when we're great grandma sitting in California. But if you can at all consider making it to one of the in-person, whether it's the national or regional, the ability to meet with your peers from boards around the country at receptions, dinners, et cetera, even breaks to talk about issues is I think invaluable. You find out what's going on, et cetera. So think about it, because I think we're going to be getting close to the cutoff point, and I can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
An FYI that you always try to get wherever the NASBA's done the negotiations for the hotel rooms, because in New York City in particular, they're hefty. I booked several weeks ago, at least, and there was one night in the middle of the conference where I could not get a room I could get a room at the hotel, but not in the block that they booked. It was already sold out. I did contact NASBA. They were going to see if they could get it extended, but I'm just encouraging, if you're going to do it, at a minimum, reserve your hotel room right away, because it's New York City, and for a lot of people around the country, that's a wow. So they're going early and staying late.
Yeah, so yes, if everybody could, yes or no, just positively or negatively get back after the meeting to Kat and myself as to whether you're interested or not, so we could make sure that's locked in and we have somebody there in person. I would appreciate it, and we can do that. I can remember the first national meeting I went to down in I think it was Washington D.C. Maybe that's a wow place too, but there were 7 members from the Oklahoma board there. I was at their table one day, 7 people from Oklahoma and me. And no, it's they had a budget that they had some discretion over from the CPA fees that came in, and they'd had a lot of turnover in the board, and thought that was a rational thing to do to get everybody up to speed. And I admit I agreed. So anyway, thank you very much, Tim, and move forward to the the focus questions. Now I have to get shrink my thing here so I can get to the focus questions on the computer here. But if we could go through these, they're kind of simple. And I'll just address those that may be of interest or input. Most importantly, is anybody aware of any current or upcoming legislation or pressing issues that NASBA should be aware of, especially in the 2024 legislative session? And I will open up that and allow Bonnie to contribute if she wishes. And of course, DCP.
NASBA's big concern is always for legislation that would eliminate the requirement for licensure. That's their big issue. That's not a fear in Connecticut at all. If you can imagine, if they did that, they wouldn't have your licensure fees, and that's what they care about. Not a penny of your licensure fees, as you know, goes to running the state board or to DCP. It all goes to the general fund. So their biggest concern is not one for us right now, and that it would be deregulation in the sense of eliminating licensure. The other issues that have been coming up have actually been making it's not a concern, but it's something that they probably should be aware of because they report wrong on it every time they report that we are a state that has licensure issues. But I'm trying to remember which committee is it now. I think it came up in it's either general law or government administrations and elections committee. They're trying to make it easier, and they did something a couple of years ago for first-time licensees. So they want to make it easier for everyone to come in, and this has been pushed by the unions. It really started off with the trades because the fees were very high for those individuals to start with, and then were lower later. We're the exact opposite. But there will be some talk and some hearings around what they can do to encourage more people to get into these different licensed professionals. So it's a good thing for us, not a bad thing. As it stands
Thank
now,
you.
that could change overnight.
Thank you. Okay. The next question was whether our jurisdiction is allowed to utilize the AICPA's Facilitated State Board Access Program, and I believe the answer to that is yes. Correct, Kat?
Yes, correct.
Okay. The next one, I'd like if anybody has any input, it says, what is your board doing to promote the CPA designation? My first opinion on that was it's not the board's job to promote the designation, but then others may disagree. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I would say not necessarily to promote it, but to support it.
Yeah,
we try and do it like within the firm, getting the newer staff to get their CPAs and stuff like that. So that's sort of promoting it, I guess.
Well, yeah, my thought was that it's our job as essentially a regulatory body to support the quality of the licensed, the body of licensed individuals, and that was very important, but ended there. There was one other thing that they'd sent out that wanted to know what, about the brand. Well, I didn't think the branding was our business, but then again, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned on that.
What does that even mean, the branding?
Yeah, to me, that's advertising and whatever.
Yeah.
I would agree. That's not our job.
That's the business of the AICPA, but not the state board. And I think that's fairly the business of the Connecticut Society.
Yeah, John, reflecting back to the meeting, there was, again, this toolkit that was developed, and it seems like there may be at least one other state board that, I don't know, views it as their responsibility, if you will, or whatnot, but, you know, are there actions that they can take that, you know, could help the cause, so to speak? And they decided to do that. Like, you know, they think holding meetings at a university might be good because students get to see, maybe participate and observe this in person, and maybe there's some value in attracting more students to the profession. But I wouldn't say it's a responsibility as much as just an action that is different than what we do today, that I guess they perceive there's some value in that for some reason.
Well, attracting quality.
Bonnie's raising her hand, John.
Yes,
I
Bonnie.
don't know if you could see her.
So
Yeah,
I couldn't go.
because I got this thing up in front of me. Sorry, Bonnie.
I couldn't attend the Eastern Regional meeting, so I went to the Western one this year. And it was interesting, when that topic came up of, is the board going to play a role in promoting the CPA designation or the brand itself? I don't know which state it was, but I thought it was very interesting. They said that because of the shortage, the decline in the number of CPAs, the reason why they were doing it was they felt that the board's role was to protect the public by ensuring initially that the CPAs that were licensed were doing everything the way they should be. Now they feel that the lack of CPAs is a concern and a threat to the public. I don't know how much of an issue that really is. We've all seen the numbers. They are a little bit scary. They say that the number of accountants are decreasing and we'll have a shortage of accountants. And obviously, if there's a shortage of accountants overall, there'll be a shortage of CPAs. But I just thought that was interesting that they raised it there. I never thought of it as a board role either, but I just thought I would share that because I'd not heard that before, but they were taking it pretty seriously, doing the same thing that Tim had mentioned and starting to engage at schools to try to encourage more people that are in the accounting profession to get that designation as well. It was interesting.
Interesting. Does anybody else find some real sympathy with that point of view? Okay, any other thoughts then? I can understand that that viewpoint.
It was a different way to look at it. I hadn't heard that ever before, so I thought it was interesting too.
Okay, I just have to get on the other screen here. Does anybody have any questions for NASBA's leadership or board of directors? And I think what's going to happen with these or any comments for NASBA's leadership board of directors, if there's anything, because on the national meeting they'll use this to determine what they're going to cover in their various updates and speeches.
I would say, based on, you know, Tim's review of the national meeting there, that my question would be, given this shortage and given all the issues surrounding it, it sounds like Minnesota's the only state that's doing something, just in my opinion, that will help make it easier. You know, decreasing the education requirement, which we've talked about before. You know, is there any consideration to adopt what Minnesota is doing? Because I think that that's a smart way to allow an easier path.
I'd say, Stacy, too, now that you say that, there was, and Bonnie, you may have been in a session at the Western as well. There was a discussion by Dan Dustin, and I think it was Nikki Nealon, paths to licensure. And it is something that I think is actively being considered, debated. You know, I think they even shared, like they're looking at other models, like what do they do in Canada? What do they do for chartered accountants. And I think in Ireland, I don't know if it's the UK as well, but you know, there's this concept if it's more of a competency based, not credit based model. And you know, can you go down that path rather than saying it's 150 credits and you know, like who knows what you get for that 150 versus you take
Right.
120 and your competency for that versus the person with 150 is better equipped because of the nature of the courses you took and your what have you. So I think they are, that's not, you know, I think NASBA has heard the concerns and what someone like Minnesota is thinking of doing. And I think they're trying to get there maybe, or consider getting there in different ways. So, but, you know, we could always share back that we think that's really something that they should continue to like, you know, focus on and consider, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I think we've talked about it, and I think most of us are sort of in the same agreement that we feel like time worked, getting that experience is better than the education requirement, because the education requirement isn't specific to taking accounting classes.
Right. Okay, I think that might be something to add in.
Thank you.
I like that term, competency versus credit base.
Yeah, that's good.
And, okay, I think that's it for that, and that moves us on to the NASBA exam extension initiative, credit extension initiative. Has everybody had a chance to read this?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ask the board to vote on adding Robert P. Jones to the agenda for a CPE extension request.
Very good. Would somebody like to introduce a motion?
I'll make that motion. Tim?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand in your little window.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, by the way, I see that the registration deadline for is September 7, which is like 2 days from now. So if everybody could give that a thought immediately for the annual meeting.
So John, just to confirm, I will be attending.
Okay.
I'm in commuting distance too, so I don't have to worry about hotels, which is nice. So
That is nice.
I'm still on the A&F committee, so I'm down there anyway for some of that, and so I'm just going to attend the annual as well.
Not a push, but I know we've got a couple other people down in Fairfield County if you're interested. Very good. Okay. I read through this. I have no problem with this initiative at all, and I think it's best that we've got two options for it. One is that we, and I'll have to ask Kat to pitch in on what, if we have to do anything other than just pass a board resolution on this, but we can do this to do as on an individual basis or adopt en masse this credit extension, which recognizes the difficulties of sort of the rolling pandemic era disappearance of credits.
Yes, throughout the years, the board has passed a universal extension, so the board is definitely, has the authority to pass this on mass,
I guess one question I had, John, I agree, it sounds like a good idea, but like just understanding how it works was unclear to me. Like, will we then not review people who the extension requests that come up, they'll automatically be approved, or will we still review the extension request during that time frame?
Oh, well, I guess the answer to that, and you bring up a good point, would be that if the extensions request that would have been put in met the criteria of this one-time NASB extension request, then they would not have to come to the board for that. I could see people coming to the board or DCP asking for clarification as to whether they met those requirements.
And I guess it's a question for Kat, maybe, right?
Excuse me, could you go ahead, Kat?
No, I'm not sure. I understood it to mean that if your credit expired within that time window, that it would be recognized now. My question was really, what if you had been given an extension? You know, it was live during that period because the board had given you an extension. So in a way, you know, your credit is really outside of that. So I don't really know. I just want to, you know, I did reach out to NASBA to ask for information about the number of Connecticut candidates that would be affected by this. And I said that, you know, the board is meeting on Tuesday and they acknowledged, but they have not come back to me. So I don't know the number of candidates really affected. It could be 10, it could be 300. I really don't know. So, and if once I get that information, if it still makes a difference, I will pass it on. But yeah, I mean, with this, I just understood it to mean that if your credit, it's not really for any kind of reason, you know, in the past, it's just like a universal extension. You know, if your credit expired from, you know, January 30th, 2020 through May 11th, 2023, it would become live. Like it would be, it's not expired.
It seems like you would get a list, or we would get a list of people who, you know, exam credit expired during that period. Then there's some reach out to those people to tell them that they've been extended to June 30 of 2025. And then it's up to them to go and retake the exam, I guess, or whatever they have to do to pass the CPA exam before June 30 of 2025.
It could happen that way, but like I know that NASBA takes care of exam, you know, administrative functions for the board. So I can reach out to see what they're doing exactly, but that could be taken care of automatically. Because right now, you know, it's on their dashboard as to the candidate's dashboard as to, you know, the extensions, the expiration, all that. So I can definitely reach out.
Okay.
I guess that was going to be one of my questions, is whether or not they were going to proactively contact candidates that are in this kind of window that they're granting an extension for.
It seems like, you know, a no-brainer if you want to accomplish the objective of what we're doing in the first place, right? Just, you know, it's encouraging them, say, come back.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if DCP would have the capability to reach out to these people because we don't, unless we have a list, but even then, they're not in our system, you know, these
Yeah.
candidates. So our licensing unit, I'm not sure would have the capability to reach out to these people.
Maybe you can just ask them, Kat, just to confirm if they're going to do it.
And I don't think you have the bandwidth. I mean, seriously. I mean, that could be a very labor intensive, not push a button on a system issue. And as I understand it, you're still short staffed, correct?
That is outside my knowledge, but yeah, when people apply to take the exam, we're not in that loop.
It's
I guess I was
interesting
more
because
looking for NASBA to do it.
they always talk about all of the data as being state board data, but you have to request it in order to get it. And when they've talked about this so far, I don't know about whether they talked about it differently, Tim, at the Eastern meeting, but when they talked about this in the March executive director meeting and again at the Western Regional, they talked about having this initiative, but they never talked about outreach. And if they're looking, these people aren't even looking at their dashboards anymore. They've kind of dropped out of the system. So I do think it's important. They do have everyone's email addresses and everything. So if it's going to be a successful initiative, maybe more than just asking would be a good idea.
I will definitely reach out and get clarification.
You know, and we'd have to have, you know, some way to get the word out, as you say. I don't know whether the trying to find everybody's individual emails, whether they're really reachable anymore. But at least we could get it out in newsletters, asking the various firms to post it. I'm sure they would be very happy to if they've got people that have been struggling to get everything done.
In the past, we have also put, you know, announcements like this on DCP website. So I can look into that as well.
And we all know your average person goes to the DCP website every day. the influencers of social media. Okay. So perhaps, you know, how we're going to progress on this is dependent upon getting some more data from NASBA. Do I hear that correctly? Or we could provisionally pass it, but not knowing how it's going to actually exactly be implemented. I guess nothing wrong with that. Then you found out how it's going to be implemented. It could just automatically start. Hopefully, NASBA is able to reset, but there is still going to have to be some way to get the word out, or multiple paths to get the word out. Any thoughts?
I agree, John. I think, I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't consider moving it forward. And then, you know, and then it's just a matter of how it gets
Right.
communicated.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, then I guess I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion that we move forward with, you know, granting this one-time credit initiative as proposed by NASBA.
We have a second?
I'll second.
I'm not sure who got that second in, but whoever's taking the minutes will grab it. Any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, we have extension requests. Shamika, this is your finest hour here.
Okay, so for exam extensions, we have Sharab Das. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So Sharab Das, he requested an extension through September 30th. For his, no, I'm sorry. His FAR will expire September 30th. That extension was approved during the May 5th meeting. But he has started a new job with the IRS and had to wrap up a lot of projects from his previous jobs before starting the new one. So therefore, he wasn't able to prepare well for his reg exam. So he failed that and intend to take it again today, actually. So he's hoping that he would pass it, but his FAR credit expires on September 30th, as I said, and he is looking for an extension through November 26, 2023, because he's also going through an intensive training with the IRS mid-September through the end of September.
Okay. Now, would he be picked up by the credit issue?
Good question.
Good question. I guess we don't have
Yes,
the.
if he, with the way the new statutes, if he applies to take a test after October 1st, his FAR credit will be extended automatically until June 16th, 2024, which is 30 months from the December 2021 date.
Well, unless I'm incorrect, this is going to happen automatically, and we shouldn't have to do a specific.
But that's only if he applies to take the test after October 1st. So from what I
Gotcha.
understand, he's taking the test today.
Okay. If he doesn't pass, he would apply after October 1st. Well, I guess belt and suspenders, we can vote to either accept or reject his request. Any thoughts?
I guess I move to accept the request to extend the date to November 26th.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions, since I can't see everybody? Okay, the motion passes. Jean Cohen.
Yes. So Jean Cohen, her extension to complete her 12 outstanding credits was granted during the last meeting in July. She asked for an extension through July 30th. At that time, she was unable to complete it because she was still dealing with wrapping up, some affairs and the stress of losing her significant other in June of 2023. She completed her hours by September 1st, so she's asking for an extension through September 1st.
Well, this one's pretty black and white if anybody has a proposal.
This is Pete. I'll make the motion to grant the extension.
Second?
Second.
Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Then I believe we have James G. Russell,
Yes.
who was from last year. Go ahead.
Yes.
Last-
Last meeting, the
Last
July
meeting.
meeting. Yes. So he was requesting an extension through the August 31st at that time. But clarification was needed about his onset and his surgery. I sent his explanation to you guys for consideration.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, and what is he requesting till when?
I'm assuming it's still through August 31st. He hasn't let me know if he's completed his hours or not.
Okay. So presumably this is either a done deal or it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is Pete. I'll make the motion to extend them to August 31st.
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I should have opened up for discussion, so if anybody still has any, go ahead. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Now, Shamika, my brain hasn't kept up with whether the addition you added was Mr. Russell or was somebody else.
No, it was Mr. Russell. No, I'm sorry. It was Robert Jones. I'm sorry.
Robert Jones, okay.
Yes. Well, Robert Jones, he as well was approved for an extension through August 31st during the last meeting. The extension was granted for good cause. His brother passed away. I mean, well, at the time, his brother was sick and he had to fly out to South Africa to help him with his recovery. His brother has then passed in early August, so he had to fly back out to take care of his affairs and attend the funeral August 21st. So he is looking for an extension through September 30th to complete his hours. So he submitted his flight information as well as a copy of his brother's death certificate as supporting documentation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Please. Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. I think that's okay. Now, unless anybody would want to propose some new business, we'll move to comments or concerns of any person present today, including attendees, non-board members. Anything that the society would like to update everybody on or query?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, will you be at New York, Bonnie?
Yes.
That's right, you said you got your room. Okay. Okay, then if none, no other meetings, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Usually people jump at that one. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and no discussion allowed on that, so all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Everybody have a good day, and please get back quickly if you have any desire to attend the New York meeting.
All right. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
very
Bye.
good. Enjoy. Thank you. Bye.